Listen, they usually don't like when I say it, but with what we're about to discuss and expose today, they're really not going to like it. So here's what I need, your help. Right when you hear me say the thing, make sure to leave a like. If you're ready to see how things are getting dug up by the so-called Cupcake Karen, revealing that Drizzy has had far more chaos behind the scenes than just his rap career, for well over a decade now, then we need to face some uncomfortable truths. Truths that a lot of people are not going to like. So make sure to like the video and subscribe. Because right now, as Drake continues to spiral and OVO seems to be in disarray, the rap game as a whole feels like it's in a place that's hard to even describe. And that's exactly why we need to talk. The main idea I want to frame this entire conversation around is the concept of performative outrage, the fake kind. This idea of pretending to care about certain issues only when it fits your narrative or benefits your agenda, especially when it's used against someone you don't like. Because eventually, that kind of behavior always comes full circle and makes you look bad. Now, before we get into the possible Euphoria meets the Grammys, type dices that are starting to circle around Drake's name, let's laugh for a moment. Right after Drake faced more ghostwriter accusations than ever before, and looked worse than ever, people started realizing that Drake isn't just a rapper. He's more like a performer, a puppet reading from someone else's script. And now, as Drake scrambles to recover, he's digging deep into his 142 million followers and responding to a random DM from someone asking him for a senior quote. Drake actually wrote a few bars for it and tried to brag. But this is where we are now, Drake ghostwriting senior yearbook quotes. Apparently, that's the most writing he's capable of these days. And even then, the writing itself shows exactly why he shouldn't be trusted to write his own raps. It's awkward, repetitive, and filled with the same corny slang and catchphrases he's been recycling for years. And speaking of that yearbook quote, out of 142 million followers, just look at the specific words that must have caught Drake's attention enough to open that DM and reply. Let's be honest, some jokes just write themselves. So with that, we don't even need a transition, because this leads us directly into what we're discussing today. The new trouble Drake seems to be caught in, all tied to the very footprint he's been leaving behind for years. And it's showing that, at the very least, much of what's now coming back to haunt Drake during this beef has been talked about as far back as 2009. Before we even get into some of the accusations being tied to Drake's name and what they could possibly mean, I want to return to that idea of fake outrage. Because what we're seeing right now is a wave of performative cupcake Karens pretending to care about morals, causes, and doing the right thing. But let's be honest, when your guy Drake is known for breaking up families, bringing people's wives into drama, and everything surrounding the story of Adidon and Adonis, and well, even if we look at what Kendrick Lamar broke down about Baca and that situation, how are you going to act like you're the ambassador of morality? These same people who claim to stand for ethics and accountability are now spending their time digging through the archives, trying to find weak points from the hip-hop side that's been standing for truth and integrity. They think they found the ultimate gotcha or cancel moment by pulling up old tweets from none other than Tyler, the creator. Now, Tyler has had his own share of controversy. It all started with his reaction to his fans not appreciating D'Angelo's legacy, a legend in his own right. Things spiraled from there, after Tyler voiced his frustration and made a few sarcastic comments online. People began resurfacing old posts, claiming they proved why Tyler attracted a certain kind of fan base. Suddenly, Cancel Tyler, the creator, started trending, with people calling him awful for things he said years ago. But here's the thing, Tyler has long addressed that period of his life. He's made entire songs, albums, and statements reflecting on that earlier, edgier chapter of his career. Yet the people pretending to be moral gatekeepers don't care about context or growth. They're just chasing a viral gotcha moment aimed at someone they don't like. And many of these same voices, they're Drake stans. People pushing this narrative because they see it as a small victory against someone who stood beside Kendrick Lamar, Pusha T, and Malice throughout this entire era. If they can take Tyler down, they think they've scored a point for Drake. But here's the irony. While Drake's fans are trying to cancel the guy who once hosted a show on Adult Swim, aired right next to Family Guy and King of the Hill, they're missing something. Unlike Tyler, who's always been known for his wild sense of humor, even when he crossed a line, Drake's history doesn't look like a series of jokes. When you go back to that same time period, and even up to just a few years ago, the footprint Drake has left behind is far more troubling. And that's why people are starting to take a harder look at what's been quietly sitting out there for years. I'll be careful with what I show here. But let's just say it's all over social media right now, and anyone can find it. Once again, what we're seeing are claims and comments that people have been making about Drake. Some vague, some very specific. A few people have even claimed that they personally witnessed certain things, or that they started connecting the dots in ways that echo the same not like us sentiments. And I think you know exactly what that means. Now, while some of these are just isolated comments, what's interesting is that if you go back as far as 2009, you'll find Charlemagne the God expressing the same suspicions. He openly called Drake weird for surrounding himself with certain people and situations that didn't make sense for the kind of image Drake was projecting. What makes all of this even stranger is that some of the more concrete posts and evidence that were circulating online, calling Drake out in serious ways, have since been deleted. And that's where things start to feel off. Because if there really was nothing behind these claims, then why are those discussions and receipts suddenly being removed? Why silence the conversation if it's baseless? So again, all of these resurfaced claims about Drake started gaining traction as a response to performative outrage surrounding Tyler, the creator. And while there are a lot of small details that can't be fully verified or proven, the overall pattern raises questions. Take, for example, what's been reported about Drake shutting down an entire restaurant for model Bella Harris, at a time when he definitely shouldn't have. Even Zach Fox made a sharp comment about that situation, one that many still consider one of the most on-point takes ever made about Drake. Then there's the music itself. If you go back to the So Far Gone era and listen to the lyrics of Houston Atlanta Vegas, and if we assume Drake was writing from personal experience, the content sounds deeply unsettling. Whether it was artistic exaggeration or not, the themes don't age well. Now, while Drake fans are out here trying to score gotcha moments against Kendrick Lamar, grasping at features, twisting narratives, or digging up old Tyler posts that have already been publicly addressed, what they ignore is far more telling. Tyler was always open about that phase of his life. It was part of the character he played, and he's grown from it. Drake, on the other hand, has a long history of strange, uncomfortable associations that people have been pointing out for years, from linking up with people like Baca, who has his own questionable background, to the Bella Harris situation, the Kylie Jenner controversy, and even the awkward headlines around Millie Bobby Brown. It's all part of a pattern that keeps resurfacing. And it brings me back to a larger point I've been emphasizing since the lawsuit situation: the hypocrisy of Drake's fan base. The same fans who constantly launch moral outrage campaigns against Kendrick Lamar, or anyone even remotely connected to him, are often the ones ignoring or excusing bizarre and unsettling behavior surrounding their own favorite artist. It's a cycle of performative outrage that exposes itself every single time. Just think about it. All this effort to dig up old posts and chase gotcha moments in the most desperate ways possible. Meanwhile, when it comes to Drake, these same people cry, complain, and act as if the most flawless person alive is being unfairly attacked, even though some of the nastiest, most unsettling things have been tied to his name for years. And honestly, when you look back at the diss tracks, it's clear that while Kendrick likely intended for the song to be released through official channels and become the massive hit it was, he was still speaking from a place of truth, or at least expanding on a reality that's already out there. The result was a record built on facts people have been whispering about for years. If we're being real, when you look at Drake's track record over the last 20 years, the strange situations, the questionable associations, these aren't isolated incidents. They're consistent patterns. From the Bella Harris situation to the Millie Bobby Brown controversy and countless other moments that make you raise an eyebrow, all of it paints a picture of who Drake has been publicly, whether he tries to highlight it or not. You can't deny that these things exist. They've shaped how the public sees him, and they're part of his story, for better or worse. And honestly, if you had to look at all the major names in hip-hop, Kendrick, Drake, J. Cole, Travis Scott, Tyler, and others, and ask which one seems most likely to end up in serious trouble for sketchy behavior, well, based on everything we've seen, there's one guy who clearly stands out, and it's not hard to figure out who that is. No matter how many performative games Drake's fans try to play, or how often they recycle a victim narrative to protect his image, it doesn't change the reality that the evidence is out there. We've all seen it. Everyone knows. Now, I'm careful about how deep I go into specifics, because, well, last time I did, I had to watch my words closely, but let's be honest. Everybody already knows what we're talking about. We can all see what's publicly available, and it's enough to understand the situation for what it is. At the very least, we know Drake has always had this weird energy around him. He has a complicated, troubled history, and while none of us can say for sure what's really gone on behind closed doors, the public pattern speaks volumes. Even something as small as him ghostwriting that senior yearbook quote says a lot. Out of the millions of messages Drake gets every day, that's the one he chose to respond to? You can connect the dots yourself. It hints at a pattern of behavior that keeps showing itself over and over. So, To close this out, to the Drake stands, and really to anyone playing a fake outrage game, it's time to stop. Because this constant performative moralizing, pretending to care about values and integrity only when it suits your side, is exhausting. It's hypocritical. And at the end of the day, it doesn't make you look righteous. It just exposes how desperate you are to protect an image that's already fallen apart. Most of the time, the people you actually like are doing things far worse. And when that happens, you stay silent. That silence keeps us trapped in this endless cycle, the same one that's pushed artists like Tyler, the creator, to create albums such as Call Me If You Get Lost and Chromacopia. On those records, he directly addresses these very games. The fake outrage, the hypocrisy, the selective morality in songs like Noid. So really, everyone needs to be careful about how they choose to diss others and play this game. Because right now, it feels like the industry has turned into one big distraction loop. Artists and fan bases deflecting, dodging, and trying to throw dirt on others to cover their own mess. But the truth is, there's always a bigger fish. There's always someone who ends up being even more embarrassing, more unsettling, and more hypocritical than the person they were trying to call out. We've seen it happen repeatedly. Tyler's old post got dragged up again, and sure, people have a right to not like what he said back then. But context matters. Tyler was literally on Adult Swim, airing alongside Family Guy and King of the Hill. His comedy and music were edgy, exaggerated, and intentionally provocative. Much like what Eminem meant when he said he had more in common with Eric Cartman than most rappers at that time. Now, compare that to Drake, someone who's always tried to present himself as this polished, good-hearted figure, yet has had a strange and troubling history from the very start. And as time has gone on, things have only gotten weirder. So for the Drake stans who keep defending him, answer this. What about Baca? What about Bella Harris? What about Stranger Things and Millie Bobby Brown? When you line up all those things, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. The point is simple. To the Draysons who are desperately trying to spin narratives, ignoring or denying the past your favorite artist actually has, stop. Because the more you try to throw dirt at others, the worse Drake's own image looks in the end. You're not helping him. You're making his downfall that much heavier. So that's all I've got for today. Let me know your thoughts on everything. Drake being exposed for his long list of questionable moments, the fake outrage from OVO stans coming after Tyler, and how all of that has completely backfired. I can't wait to hear what you think in the comments. If you made it this far into the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps a lot. Thank you for sticking around, and I hope you have a great day and an amazing week ahead. And if you want to stay tuned for what's next, right before all this, Kendrick Lamar made the entire rap world furious. Drake took another massive L, and now there's talk of a potential Kendrick versus Joe Budden situation heating up. The rap game is spiraling as Kendrick's dominance keeps shaking the entire culture. You're not going to want to miss that, because it's showing, clearer than ever, how everyone from the biggest names to the loudest critics still can't handle the fact that there's one undisputed #1 in hip-hop. And with that, if you care about real hip-hop and about keeping competition alive, you already know what to do.